Good morning, this is Mission Control Houston. Northrop Grumman Cygnus cargo spacecraft, the SS Sally Ride, has made it to the International Space Station. You're looking at a live view of Cygnus now with 8,200 pounds of cargo just inside. Cygnus now grasped in the hand of the station's robotic arm.
And that barcode does not sound correct to us. We're looking for one that ends in 9M. Mike.
A robotics officer here in Mission Control is working with the team to install Cygnus to the space station now, and you may see some small movements of the spacecraft until that point. So what you're looking at now, you can see that Cygnus has only one solar array unfurled. To explain it a little bit further, a couple hours after Monday's launch of the Antares rocket, Cygnus successfully separated from the second stage and went into its preliminary orbit. A couple of hours later, the flight control team at Northrop Grumman sent the command to deploy the spacecraft's solar arrays. One deployed with no issue, and the second remained in a partially staged configuration, and the solar array was only partially deployed. You can see on the screen now what we're talking about. This is footage from earlier, as Cygnus was still making its way to the space station. However, after plenty of analysis by the Northrop Grumman and Houston Mission Control teams, the spacecraft was able to reach the space station as planned 2 days later, bringing us to today. The spacecraft completed a series of rendezvous burns to get the spacecraft closer to the space station and in a correct orientation. NASA astronaut Nicole Mann robotically captured the spacecraft at 4:20 a.m. Central Time, 5:20 a.m. Eastern. NASA astronaut Josh Cassada was in the cupola's robotic workstation as her backup, with a second set of eyes on the spacecraft, and he also took some additional photos for the ground to get a better look at Cygnus and better understand the solar array situation. The astronauts have been relieved of their duties for Cygnus, and the robotic arm is now under the command of Kenton Kirkpatrick, a robotics controller here in Mission Control Houston.
Go ahead, Frank.
Okay, I found the pressure probe with 5 zeros, 9 Mike, and that is now connected to the ISA.
Great news. Thanks, Frank. And Koichi, we thought it was there, but if you're not seeing it and the rotation path is clear, then you are go to proceed.
Okay, copy that. Proceed in step 6.1.
Koichi, back with you on 2. We're seeing a camera lens floating behind you. Kind of behind you to your right.
Okay, thank you.
Before our coverage began, robotics officer Kenton Kirkpatrick worked to do a survey of the common berthing mechanism on Cygnus, making sure it's free of debris. He then maneuvered the spacecraft to RTL position, ready to latch position. Right now he's aligning with the common berthing mechanism on the Earth-facing port of the station's Unity module. It's ready to be installed to the space station, Cygnus now within 5 feet of the Unity module, moving into 3 feet. This is an entirely ground-controlled operation. When that happens, a series of latches will close to keep Cygnus in place, and 16 hooks will be driven to further secure Cygnus into place. First, you'll hear a call out for first stage capture when there's been a soft capture of Cygnus to Unity. Then we'll expect a hard mate, or a second stage capture, which is the point that signifies that Cygnus is installed to the space station. After mating is complete, NASA astronaut Frank Rubio will conduct a leak check of the vestibule, which is the space between the common berthing mechanisms of Unity and Cygnus. There's one on each side. Later today, after a positive leak check, the hatch will open so that the crew can start unloading time-critical cargo, and cargo operations will continue throughout the rest of the week as well. Robotics officers are working to move Cygnus into its alignment position now.
Koichi on 2, we're seeing some WAPs near the bottom of our view, near deck, that we think might be getting pinched or may need moved before they get pinched.
I think the deck side has enough play to be clear. All the equipment still have freedom to move, so looks like I can continue to rotate.
Okay, thank you, Koichi. That was just our angle on that view, made it look worse than it was.
Thank you. And then if you notice anything, please give me a shout.
The robotics officer here in Mission Control is operating the robotic arm, also called the SSRMS, or Space Station Remote Manipulator System. Simply put, it's called the Canadarm2. That has its grasp on the Cygnus cargo spacecraft, using that to install it to the station's Unity module. The view on your screen is the Cygnus cargo spacecraft. It looks a little bit dark at the moment as the space station is flying over Japan in an orbital nighttime.
To station 2, in step 6.6 for the OGA rack rotation, do you think the rack needs to be tilted more, or is this a good starting point?
And Koichi, we think that is probably good. We have a couple items for you. Though first off, we just saw a tool go flying. It looks like it's floating kind of in the middle of port 2 rack, above the laptop.
Yeah, I see it and I captured it. Thank you.
You're hearing some chatter going on the inside of the International Space Station. On your screen now is a live look at the robotic arm Cygnus cargo spacecraft and the Unity module. This is a completely ground-based operation, so a flight controller at the robo position, or robotics officer, is working with the robotic arm to get Cygnus into a proper alignment with the common berthing mechanism on the Unity module to install it into place.
Okay, Koichi, we copy that the laptop side looks connected. We'll figure out where the other end should be and have you check it there once we get a location for you.
Okay, what's the other end go of the hypervisor 3? It looks like this cable is not stretched out, so and let me know when I need to check on the other side of this cable from the hypervisor 3.
We'll get the location for you to check. In the meantime, you can continue pressing with the rack rotation activities.
Okay, so this portion of the activity is complete in step 6.6, so I'm going to go to the next task.
Sounds good. Thanks, Koichi.
Okay, thank you. Houston Station on 2, Rebecca, I'm in step 1 of procedure 4.1006. And please let me know the desired position in step 1.
Koichi, the desired position is open and safing is in place.
Okay, copy. Desired position is open and safing is in place. So I'm going to proceed to step 2 at this time.
If you're just joining us, a Northrop Grumman Cygnus cargo spacecraft has made it to the International Space Station after a 2-day journey. It was robotically captured by NASA astronaut Nicole Mann at 4:20 a.m. Central Time and is now worked to getting installed into the Earth-facing port of the Unity module. We're in a brief but expected handover between our communication satellites, and we expect to get our live views of the Cygnus cargo spacecraft back soon. In the meantime, you're looking at a live view of Mission Control Houston under the direction of Flight Director Chloe Maring. The Cygnus cargo spacecraft being installed into the International Space Station now will spend 2.5 months installed into the International Space Station. It has a scheduled departure of late January. Robotics officers have been working to align the Cygnus cargo spacecraft, the Cygnus's common berthing mechanism, with Unity's common berthing mechanism. Once good with the alignment, they will move into the ready-to-latch position.
Houston Station on 2-4, OGA.
Houston's with you on 2.
Rebecca, I am in step 2.2 and moved the valve position to open. I believe I put it in the correct position. I photo documented it. I will downlink it later. But looking at the figure 3, originally it was in auto position, and I pushed the lock release button and moved the lever towards the upper direction in the figure 3. So in the open position, am I correct? Open coding is not visible because it goes underneath the lever. Is that the open configuration? I just wanted to make sure.
And yes, Koichi, that is the correct configuration for open.
Okay, great. And so the task is complete. Now we'll go back to the rack rotation back to the original position.
We're back now with live views of the Cygnus cargo spacecraft.
We would actually like you to take just a couple-minute break. We have one item we'd like to discuss down here before you close things back up.
Okay, Rebecca, go ahead. Okay, Rebecca, then I'll be back in a few minutes, and give me a call when you need me to continue.
Wilco.
The space station's robotic arm is on your screen now. At the end is Northrop Grumman's Cygnus cargo spacecraft, the SS Sally Ride. Teams are working on the alignment, and once that is good to go and everyone confirms the alignment is in the proper position, they'll get ready to move to the ready to latch position. Looking ahead to after today's installation, NASA astronaut Frank Rubio will conduct a leak check of the space between the common berthing mechanisms on Cygnus and the Unity module, and then begin to open up the hatch to unload some time-critical cargo.
Station Houston on 2 for Koichi.
Go ahead, Rebecca, on 2.
All right, Kuti, we've discussed our thoughts down here, and we've decided against doing anything different than what was on your timeline. So we are ready for you to go ahead and rotate that rack back up. As you do that, I know you know this, but please be vigilant of any cables that might have slipped into the rotation path and making sure nothing is getting pinched. Once that rack is rotated up, we believe the hypervisor Ethernet other end is at deck 1 at the lab ISL at deck 1. So I'll give you a more specific location once you get the rack out of the way.
We're in a brief but expected handover period. We're going to get our live views back of the Cygnus cargo spacecraft, but after this handover, our flight director, Chloe Mering, has given the go to move into the ready-to-latch position, RTL, as you may hear it referred to, in the home stretch of getting Cygnus installed to the Unity module of the International Space Station.
And Station Houston on 2, no response required. For everyone's awareness, we are proceeding in with berthing.
On your screen here is the Cygnus cargo spacecraft on the left. On the right, the station's Unity module. You can see that they are aligned, the common berthing mechanism is in the correct position, and they're going to move into the ready-to-latch position. Momentarily, you may see some small movements of the Cygnus cargo spacecraft. The space station's robotic arm is in motion at the controls of the robotics officer, Kenton Kirkpatrick. The Cygnus cargo spacecraft in motion now. The space station's robotic arm has completed its movement. You can see on your screen the space station about to move into an orbital daytime.
And Koichi and Josh, we're seeing that what might look like some cables getting pinched between port 1, port 2, near the deck. That might be causing some resistance for you.
Rebecca, we did not feel any resistance. We were just making sure that all the cables are not caught. And then looks like between port 1 and port 2, all the cables are clear. I think it looks good to us.
All right, we copy. We appreciate it. You're checking.
Yeah, thanks. And is there any particular area of concern that you saw?
It was that area you were, Josh was just touching there, and I think it was just our view on it is not great.
Okay, thank you. And Houston Station on 2 for the Hypervisor 3 connection. Could you let us know where it should be connected?
And Koichi, so...
that machine was, I just saw it, it was powered off. Now it's powered up and booting up. So it may not be the cable connection, but just the power was off.
Okay, Koichi, now that it's booting back up, just give us a minute to see if we can get a good connection.
Okay, copy that. I'll continue to put back the cables and boxes in the original position.
Sounds good, thank you.
First stage capture is complete.
And Koichi, we are seeing a good ping on Hypervisor 3, so that boot up worked.
Okay, great. Thank you.
We did get confirmation of first stage capture. This is a soft capture of the Cygnus spacecraft to the Unity module. Second stage capture is still underway, has not occurred yet, and at this point, at the point of second stage capture, 16 bolts will have been completed and driven and further installing the Cygnus cargo spacecraft to the Unity module. And here in Mission Control, we got a go from our flight director, Chloe Mehring, to go for second stage capture. The Cygnus cargo spacecraft is on your screen now on the left, attached to the space station's Unity module on the right. First stage capture has been completed, and we are waiting for confirmation of second stage capture, which is still underway. The bolts are now driving. There are 4 sets of 4, resulting in 16 total bolts. Here taking a look at the Cygnus cargo spacecraft. It's being installed to the station's Unity module, and 16 hooks are being driven to keep it into place. The driving of these bolts is still in progress. The second set of bolts is now complete, now awaiting the rest of the 8 bolts to be completed. And with that, the Cygnus cargo spacecraft has been successfully installed to the International Space Station by flight controllers here in Mission Control Houston at 7:03 a.m. Central Time. 7:03 a.m. Earlier this morning, NASA astronaut Nicole Mann robotically captured the spacecraft at 4:20 a.m. Central, 5:20 a.m. Eastern. The spacecraft had made a 2-day journey to the space station, traveling with only one deployed solar array, after launching from NASA's Wallops Flight Facility on Monday. Now that Cygnus is fully installed to the Unity module of the International Space Station, NASA astronaut Frank Rubio will perform leak checks of the common berthing mechanism before opening the hatch door. The crew will then work to unload some time-critical cargo, working throughout the week on unpacking the rest of the 8,200 pounds of supplies delivered in this cargo spacecraft. That concludes our coverage. Thanks for watching. This is Mission Control Houston.